Well, hi everyone. We are Empath. First of all, we just want to thank everyone for coming out, whether you were required to be here or just think that our presentation is going to be the coolest, which it is, and wanted to come out and support us.
Sorry.
So to start, my name is Aniella Del Rio. I'm planning on going to mines in the fall. I'm in a double major in mechanical and computer science engineering and minor in aerospace. Clubs, I have done too many to count. I lost track a long time ago. I'm just going to put it like that. But it's been a long 4 years. I also am a cheerleader, and I do a lot of weight training. As for, I've done over 11 semesters of STEM classes, so I literally have taken every single one offered at this school. I have earned my CSWA, WP, WPAs in surfacing, sheet metal, drawing tools, and weldments, and hopefully in 2 weeks I will have my CSWE.
My name is Keakalina, or Kea, or Kia, or Key, I've heard it all. I'm obviously a senior here at Grandview. I'm in soccer, and I just finished NHS actually, and I've only taken 3 years of STEM classes because I was in Arizona my freshman year. They didn't offer it, but I heard that. I will be going to Nebraska Kearney for college. I will be majoring in physics, playing soccer, and then after those 4 years, I will hopefully be transferring somewhere else to finish my bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering. In my 3 years here, I have gotten my CSWA, CSWP, and my name's credential from CCS.
So to start off with our logo, this is all the required stuff, so I mean we did do a fantastic job, but you have to hear this anyway. So this logo, as you can see, part of it, we wanted to mesh the idea of technology and also the brain, since that is pretty much the exact thing that we're doing in our project. So the cog was meant to symbolize technology, while the brain on the left side was obviously meant to symbolize the research that we're doing for brainwaves and everything. Not to mention, the little circles right there, those are meant to be the electrodes, which we're doing an EEG machine, which will connect directly into the brain. As for our name, Empath, we chose that because theoretically, I mean, it's not a possible thing, but an empath is someone that can actually feel the emotions of others. And so we wanted to choose that because this machine, what we're trying to do is try to read emotions and be able to understand people without them having to say a word, hence the slogan. And also the breaks between this font that we chose are meant to symbolize the circuitry and our technology, so kind of another piece bringing that in. And the color, green is a color that symbolizes health and technology. So with health, we're specializing in mental health, that's one of our things. So green was a perfect thing for what we were choosing.
Yes, so our project inspiration kind of had a range.
So I'm a huge fan of Phineas Gage. I read that book in 6th grade, and so he is a railroad worker from a long time ago that had a spear blown through his skull, as you can see right here, that nifty little hole, and it completely disintegrated his frontal lobes. And he was still fully functional before and after, which I thought was incredible. Yet his personality took a massive change from someone calm and content to irritable and angry. And seeing that really made me realize how big of a deal the brain is.
Right. I mean, I don't really blame the guy. I'd be kind of mad if something was a my focus was mostly on the emotional side of it. I really wanted to do something that, might help with therapy sessions or anything like that. So I know a lot of people might struggle with alexithymia, which is basically the inability to express your emotions through words. And therapy sessions is pretty much all you're doing. You're talking to them, trying to figure out what's wrong. And if we were able to actually figure out exactly what you're feeling, we might be able to attack the problem at the source, so you're not being prescribed, say, like antidepressants for when you're just stressed out.
Not to mention those delicious brownies you're eating. I wanted to be able to find the correlation between thinking those memories that I've had with my dad and making them for the past 5 years. I mean, it's been like, I always think of him and I love my dad so much. And so I want to be able to look at those memories with the EEG machine and be able to actually find the happiness in them.
So this was our initial project. It was very big. We totally underestimated the actual size of it. Initially, we wanted to change a software, change the coding in it, so that we were able to project a certain color depicting on which emotion you're feeling. And we're planning on doing that on top of actually analyzing, again, what emotion you're feeling. And that was just so much. I mean, the fact that we pulled an all-nighter just trying to do this says it all. But then our final project ended up just being how to understand and read the EEG, as well as determine the difference between the two emotions, happiness and sadness. So it ended up just being an application of technology rather than cheating. So these are my project objectives. Improving my time management skills. Oh boy. Ask my parents, I'm a terrible procrastinator. It is awful, but I think this project has really helped me get my project in on time, get journals, all that, and that was nice. Create a portfolio, to maybe aid me in college and stuff. If, say, I'm trying to get an internship, which I plan on doing in my 5th year in college, this would probably help me, you know? Not many high schoolers have the opportunity to do a giant project like this. Improve my research skills. I mean, in general, research is iffy for me, but this project has really helped me hone in what I need to look for and how to apply it to the project. I definitely got to learn about the different occupations, like Mr. Combs said, got something. And improve my presentation skills. I get really nervous. I'm sure a lot of my friends here already know that, but I think I'm doing a decent job, I hope.
As for me, I may not be, I just can't stick to deadlines. That is one of my absolute worst issues. So I've definitely worked on that a lot this year. Not to mention, I want to have as many cords around my neck for graduation as possible, just to look cool. So that is definitely incentive to take this. Not to mention creating a network of connections, and getting internships is all about relationships and connections, which is one of my main goals for college. And then the brain has always been something that I really love doing, but since I'm going to be a mechanical engineer, it's my last chance to study something that I've been wanting to do for forever, and which is why I wanted to end this year with mastery on that topic. And then also, I mean, when you went to Miss Grandview, I had to play piano in front of 650 people, which really, I have no more fear of public speaking, honestly. That took it all away. And then for our advisory committee, I'd like to special thank you to our 2 expert advisors, Mr. Scobin and Mr. Rios. Mr. Scobin was in this class a while ago, and so he has experience reading and working with brainwaves, which had to do with his project as well. Mr. Rios, the best US history teacher in the school, and also AP psychology. He really helped us with the way that the brain operates and making sure that we were getting all the right results. My dear sweet father, Carlos Del Rio, parental support, obviously, and the one that made you brownies last night, along with my dear sweet mother. So, round of applause to them, please. And hey, his dear sweet mother, which I love with all my heart, and her father. And we also have Rick and May. They were both our peers that helped us out with our presentation and making sure everything looked good.
Rick was very judgy, so it really helped us tone in get our stuff together, you know? Also, special shout out to Avi and Angelo. They have been really great friends. They have helped us with a lot, and they just been really great.
Starting off with the timeline, so mine and Kay's is a little different since obviously it's a partner project and we needed 2 different people to be doing this project. So mine, it really went according to plan for the first half of it. You can see all of this went perfect. And then after the mid-year presentations, I definitely underestimated the amount of time that it would take to actually get results in test, which is good because I padded my schedule with a ton of time to design the presentation and script. So you were to leak into there and we weren't too overwhelmed.
Mine changed quite a bit, actually. This was my final. It went from being very broad, like I said before, but I really had to hone in on the technology side of it and understanding how the EEG works, how it started, so that we can hopefully be able to improve how we're using it today. Here's the other bit of it. Sorry, their colors are kind of hard to get.
Starting off with brainwave research, so there's 5 different kinds of brainwaves: delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma, which all depend on your level of consciousness and awareness. So right here, you can see that this is an accurate representation of delta brainwaves, the ones that are most present when you're asleep. The much faster gamma brainwaves, those are over here, and you can definitely see the difference between the amplitude and everything. And so that is basically the first thing that I had to research. Second thing, obviously, was the brain and where emotions come from. First thing I found was the limbic system, which comprises of the limbic cortex, the hypothalamus, the hippocampus, and the amygdala. However, after speaking to Mr. Rios, which really shaped our project, we found that those are really deep inside your brain, and we wouldn't be able to get good results from them. So instead, I went through and I researched the different brain lobes, since those are on the outside, and I realized that the frontal, temporal, and occipital are the ones that are most important to our project, since they have the most to do with behavior, memory, trauma, and overall emotions.
So this was the first EEG we had in mind. It was about $300, and basically, I believe it had 6 electrodes. So it was from the company Motive, which is what one of our advisors used when he was here. But we decided to use a completely different EEG machine. This was the $300. Oh, it also used semi-dry polymer electrodes, which are actually a lot easier to maintain and upkeep than the one that we have now, which basically we don't have to keep wetting it in order to keep it going. This was the software we're planning on using, the Motive Pro. It was really helpful because it had the brainwaves from each electrode that showed, so that we could see which parts of the brain specifically are affecting the emotion. And it was about $30 a month, so very unfortunately, that repeated. Okay, unfortunately, we had a big uh-oh. We ordered the first one that I just showed, but then during winter break, I was doing weight training and Annie called me and she's like, dude, they canceled their order. And so we were in a huge panic and we called our advisor and he said that we should probably look at some alternatives, and one of them was building it from scratch.
So that was mainly my section. So EEG machines are so cool. I cannot stress this enough, honestly. I had no idea how much went into this, but basically, so the way that your neurons fire, the speed at which you're thinking pretty much, is an electrical signal, and it's picked up by the EEG, which is one of the reasons why we need to wet the electrodes, because water conducts electricity and makes it flow faster through it. So then having those wet really help that signal travel. And the EEG is basically a big amplifier. It takes those microscopic signals that are dampened by your hair, your brain, I mean like all the stuff in between the actual signals and your scalp pretty much. And it converts them to digital, which you can either connect to a computer or an oscilloscope. And so the computer, obviously, we're going to go through some, but this is exactly what brainwaves look like. And an oscilloscope, fun fact, is what they use in a police station when they're doing a lie detector test, because they actually test for those differences between the way that you're thinking so that they know if you're lying or telling the truth.
So I tried to look up an alternative option to what we had initially. Instead of using Motives, we would have used Muse too. Theirs is more of a sleep-oriented stuff, so the whole purpose was to check your brainwaves while you sleep to make sure what you're doing is actually a good amount of sleep for you. And then I learned what a Raspberry Pi was. I know I should probably know that because I've been in tech classes for 3 years, but I did it. So we would have downloaded the Motive software that we were planning on using beforehand onto the Raspberry Pi while also using the Muse 2 instead. Luckily, again, Mr. Scogan gave us his to use, so we have a really nice Motive EEG. This one right here. Yeah. It's free. Like, we just saved like $400, which is really cool.
Not to mention that which gives us better results was $850.
Yes. So, very expensive. And I made a little chart of the compare and contrast, and the biggest things were how many electrodes are on each one, and then the upkeep was a lot harder because, like that says, I have to use saline soaked pads, which means we had to get some eye contact solution, and every time we used it, we had to thoroughly soak the different pads so that we could actually get a good connection. So this is my best friend right here. She was our little test subject at first. We had to learn how to actually get this thing to work. So here she is lying on the ground. This was for our baseline testing. So essentially the way the Motive Pro works, the software, is it asks for a baseline test. She had to rest with her eyes closed and her eyes open for 30 seconds. We had her laying on the ground because the little dongle, it was not connecting unless she was there. Later on, we ended up downloading the software onto our laptops to make the connection a lot better. But here's what we got from hers. The connection wasn't great. because as you can see here, they're all different colors. The gray means it's not connected at all. So we needed to work on that. The red means it's like kind of poor, and then the green, the green is a pretty good connection. This is exactly from this right on the side.
Then going on, so we actually started being able to apply our research and had started using it to do things. So I am a lucid dreamer. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically a state of consciousness and awareness while you're dreaming. So I've got one while I was sleeping, one while I was dreaming, and one while I was lucid dreaming, and you can see the differences in the amplitudes of all those waves. So what I got from this, so those are gamma waves on the right side, which is, as you can go back, all the way to the beginning, it was the most aware and conscious. And since those are the most detailed, I figured that if I'm trying to find connections between two different kinds of happiness, that would be the best place to do it, because since they're so detailed, I can really see those in really small differences. So then I started testing happiness, and what better way to be engaged, aware, and do a school project than watch Marvel movies? So that's what I did for the entire rest of the year. This one right here, the one on the left, can be seen from watching the Marvel intro, which is present in all the movies. The one in the middle, that one, it was from the first Avengers movie where Tony Stark is walking the Stark Tower, all cool, getting his suit taken off by his fancy machinery. As a future mechanical engineer, to me that was feelings of happiness associated with thinking of my future and what I aspire to be, my goals, everything that has to do with my personal happiness. Whereas the Marvel intro really reminds me of the people that I watch Marvel movies with and those interpersonal relationships. And you can tell, especially, happiness comes from the temporal lobes mainly, because the gland, the presuneus, turns happy memories, which come from the temporal lobes, into happy feelings. So the top three lines right there is kind of what I was focused on. And if you see from the left to the middle has greater amplitudes. You can see that yellow one goes all into the other ones beside it because it was so large. So I was able to find a relationship amplitude and those two different sections of happiness, which the picture on the right, that was from a different movie, Spider-Man Homecoming. Right at the end when Tony Stark is telling Spider-Man that he's so proud of him and that he should be an Avenger, that to me was the perfect mix of seeing relationships with characters that I've been watching Marvel for years and I personally have grown very attached to, and especially in a moment when one of their goals is being completely achieved. You can see that the amplitude for those is kind of in the middle of both, which really makes sense for our project. And so now if we were to show a picture of happiness, or have someone put the EEG on, we could classify that happiness between these two different sections.
Yes. Also from these graphs, you can clearly tell one of our electrodes. Not detecting anything.
Exactly.
That was unfortunate.
Then I watched one final movie, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and you can see this, it also proved our original theory, because this is when Harry is winning the first round of the Triwizard Tournament, so you can see his goals being achieved, that whole idea, and the amplitude of the wavelet of the waves is really large, so that also falls into that category. But this middle section right here, where it's almost flatlining, or the amplitude is much smaller, I actually went through the video, and that's when I turned to my phone. As a nerd, I'm not very popular, so when I get a text, it's like the biggest deal in the world. So I turned to my phone, and I went to go see that text. It was from a family member, and so that brought me back to those feelings of family and my interpersonal relationships. You can see the amplitude immediately dropped, giving us another reason to prove that our proposal was correct.
Yes, so this was my test. I focused in on sadness. Unfortunately, I can't lucid dream, so I was like, hey, you can cry. Let's cry. So I've been watching this little show called Kitbull. My whole family knows I am a very emotional person, especially when it comes to animals. So I'm going to show this little clip of what I watched and then the results I got from it. I know it seems really impressive. This part in particular, I cried. Because I'm a huge Pity fan. I love pit bulls. So to just hear this and see this, I started crying in class. Mr. Combs even asked me, like, are you good? I was like, no, I'm great. I just got results, dude. That's awesome. So these are the results I got from that exact moment when the dog got kicked out. Right here was when I started bawling my eyes out. Specifically this part, on the F4 and F8, and AF4 and F7, those are all in the frontal lobe. So this just really goes to show like how much my emotions were affected by the frontal lobe. The quick spike was, you know that feeling when your heart drops? Like that's kind of what it was like. And then I ended up taking mine and Annie's tests side by side, her happy results versus my sad results. And there's a pretty significant difference between the two, except for again, this line is pretty much the same. Hers were a lot more consistent. So basically, our final results were that if you're happy, your brainwaves are going to go frantic. Like you love whatever you're doing or watching or whatever. And then when you're sad, you know it's pretty mellow. That one part hits, man. And then it mellows out again. Another part that may or may not have played back into that was the fact that I was watching a cartoon. It's not real, so you know, I was at first panicked, and I was like, no, that didn't actually happen. It's okay. Yeah, I mean, initially, I remember at the beginning we thought or had predicted that the emotion you're feeling depends on the frequency of the brainwaves, but it's actually the consistency. Bibliography.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
Why specifically the Goblet of Fire?
Because it's the best Harry Potter movie. And not to mention, that one really had a lot of the like kind of achieving goals, which is what I was trying to prove the most. Since it was literally 3 different sections, I mean, I couldn't use the last one, so it was, you know how it ends. But I mean, it was characters actually going through and achieving something that they've been hoping for a significant amount of time.
And I know. Oh, okay. That's not Annie.
Go ahead.
After doing the research, what is left in you? I mean, what's your thoughts about?
I mean, honestly, after going through this, I learned that brainwaves are a lot more complex than I thought they were. I didn't think it was going to be black and white, but it was a whole long process. If we had had more time, we would have been able to study both fear and anger, which I wish we would have gotten to. But I mean, it was a really, really cool experience being able to see this class.
That and I realized EEG machines are so hard to put on. And actually, hair is a problem. Let me tell you. Annie's hair gets caught in it all the time.
Yeah.
When she tries to take it off, it's kind of funny. Yeah.
Do you guys have any like future plans or kind of how this like goes on or?
I don't know. I think it'd be really cool, but in terms of what we're studying and where we are going, I don't think we'd be able to get together anytime soon to work on it. But also, we mostly picked this project because it just seemed cool and it was something we were both really interested in.
Earlier in the presentation, I mentioned a Raspberry Pi. What exactly is that?
I learned it was a mini computer.
Oh.
I know, I was confused too. It was like, Raspberry Pi? I don't know, I don't really like that. Yes?
I really think you guys should pursue this because it would save a lot of men from having to try to figure out what their life is going to be.
You know, if you ask me, I actually think that men are the ones that are harder to understand.
Hey, Dad, she knows where you sleep. What are you anything else? And I think we have enough for Annie, so I guess if anyone wants to come next week, I know I will.